all the armor you wear. I see all the jewels and gems of wisdom you share. It's okay to shine, Ma. It's okay to shine. It's okay to have pride, Ma. You don't have to live a lie. Don't let the violence fool you into silence, convincing you that you are not worthy of space and time. You might not know it yet, but you got a multi-dimensional set of eyes looking out for you. Trust that what is meant for you is relying on you to show up. Show up.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight on Real Talk with Jean Price. I hope that you had a beautiful day. Listen, you have time to tell your friends, your family. We are live and we have a great show that's planned for you. We want you to take the time to like, to comment, and of course, to share our stories, share our show. And as we're going into the holiday season in a couple of months, you don't want to miss the wonderful surprises that we're going to have in store. Our favorite thing that we do here at Real Talk is we do Jean's favorite things. And you might be one of the winners this year. So listen, you want to keep watching and kind of put your name in and, you'll get to see what we have in store. But I want to take this time to thank you, those that are our most valuable people that watch our show all the time. Thank you so much for always tuning in, always supporting, always letting us know how much you appreciate Real Talk with Jean Price, real issues, real topics, real stories. And that's really what it's all about. This whole thing with my production team and myself, it started off because of a story. It started off because of something that I went through in my life, and we came up with a concept which we changed, we transitioned a little bit, we pivoted, and we called it Real Talk with Jean Price. So listen, give us your comments, give us your shares, give us your likes. Tell us what you want to talk about. So tonight, we have a wonderful guest with us tonight, and we're going to be talking about pushing our millennials forward, I want to take this time to welcome my guest, a wonderful young lady that's with us tonight. Her name is Cacharel Coach. Cacharel, why don't you come on out to Real Talk with Jean Price?
Hey, everybody. Hey, Lady Jean.
How are you? I am so excited that you have joined me tonight on Real Talk. I'm excited to hear about you more, of course. I'm excited for you to tell my viewing audience what you do, what you're about. Kind of tell us a little bit about yourself so we can get started.
Okay, great. Well, first, thank you so much again for having me tonight. It is an honor to be on here. Hey, everybody. My name is Cacharel Coach. I am 22. I'm from New York, now residing in the DMV area. I'm a serial entrepreneur, a business coach. I own a marketing agency. I love what I do. I love to build things and destruct things. But yes, that's a little bit about me in a nutshell.
Okay, so let's get started. I had an opportunity to kind of talk to Cacharel a little bit backstage, and she told me a whole lot more, which we're going to get into. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see young people move forward. I'm excited to see what God has purposed in their hearts and in their minds. And I think it's so beautiful. So let's start with this, Cacharel. The millennial generation faces so much pressure, right?
Yes.
In an attempt to be success. How did you purpose in your heart, or when did you know that you were called to be an entrepreneur?
Okay, that's an amazing question. The journey kind of began when I was young. I always knew I wanted to just do something that was different. In high school, I would say, no, it actually started before high school. So when I was in middle school, my parents are both pastors in ministry, and I saw how they kind of suffered financially in different areas to do what they do. And I told God, I'm like, God, if you are calling me to ministry, because I knew he was, I was just like, my number one thing is I don't want to do it broke. Like that was my biggest thing, believe it or not. So when I got to high school, I did a lot in terms of building different programs in my high school. And I remember I started modeling. I'm tall, so I started modeling at a younger age as well. And just between the programs I ran at high school, the modeling I did, then the encounter I had with the Lord when I was younger, I just knew that I was not called to fit in like a normal box.
Okay.
And so I just started to really just like kind of just ask God, like, what is my purpose? What have you assigned me to do in the earth? And shortly after, of course, I was always like just hustling, of course, too. You know, when you're from New York, you got that little hustle
Yes.
in you. So I always was hustling in high school. Like I always knew how to make money. I always knew how to just start things. And I just told myself one day, like, I know I can own like a multi-million-dollar company. I just knew I could do it. I didn't really have a understanding of what faith was or biblical principles. I didn't know anything about that, but I knew whatever I set my mind to, I can do.
That's it.
And I just knew that I can do something major one day in the earth. And I knew that God, just little things I would see, like homelessness, like I just knew something was different, like something was beyond what I'm used to or what I'm seeing. I just knew like God, something got to give in life. Like this can't be all that we can accomplish. You know, what we see in the movies and TV. Like I'm like, this can be real life. So that's kind of how I started my entrepreneurial journey.
Wow, that's great. That's powerful. Definitely, I hear the sound of a visionary for sure. That for sure. So let me ask you this question. As you and I both know, right? Social media plays such a huge role. It's such a big impact, right, in everything that we see and everything that we do. What is your thought on that as far as social media being realistic expectation? Because entrepreneurship is hard work. I know a little bit about it. How do you feel like social media kind of plays a role in that though? Because it can present something that's hard to attain, or it can present something that you can obtain. What's your thought on that?
I think social media has been a good and bad thing in our generation.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like social media has like it has depleted people from process because everyone just sees like, oh yeah, you know, the glitz and the glam of things, and it took away from people actually like having that, you know, like, okay, it takes time to do things. Like Rome wasn't built in one day. And I feel like social media, especially for our generation, my generation, everybody just wants quick, like gratification is very quick, and it's just like we're a microwave generation and we just want everything so fast. And even today I was on the phone with one of my friends who's also an entrepreneur, and I was talking to her and I'm like, you know, there's just so many different trends. No one really knows themselves. Everybody's just like copying each other. I'm like, were we all born from like the same woman? Like, why does everybody look the same, act the same, sound the same? So, you know, of course, I love social media because that's how people are making money. That's how we're able to network. You know, if my mom always told me if social media is used right, you can really use it in your favor. But at the same time, there has to be boundaries, I feel like, when it comes to social media. Because even I could find myself scrolling on TikTok for like an hour. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to get off of here. Like,
Right.
I got business to do. I got meetings to. So, you know, it can be very distracting. But if you set boundaries and if you set yourself a schedule where maybe, you know, I sometimes just turn off my phone for the whole day just because I'm so busy.
Yeah.
And I really just don't want to be distracted because I know me.
Good. Yes.
I know I can be very easily distracted. So I turn off my phone sometimes and just like lock into my work and my schedule. So social media is a great thing. I think anything is a good thing. It's just how you maintain it, how you manage it.
Yeah. That's
So yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Yeah, that's excellent. You know, we just came, it was kind of still in the pandemic, but when the pandemic started, right, as you know, it was in 2020. And all during the pandemic, you know, the world was shut down. You and I both know that. So entrepreneurship, you kept hearing entrepreneurship, which is fine. But this is the thing now. How do you balance the responsibilities, right, of your brand and then not get burned out? Because it's huge. Again, entrepreneurship is huge. It's risk factors involved with it. How do you balance all of that?
Yeah, balance, I think, is something that I'm learning daily. Even the other day, I was on the phone with one of my ministry friends, and he was asking me, like, Cash, do you have balance? Like, do you? Because all I see is you working and pouring and plowing. And that's something I'm still working on myself, balancing just ministry and business and then personal. Because sometimes I almost got burnt out, literally, like recently. And my mom, she actually took me on a 2-week vacation. We went to Aruba. We went to a couple of different places. And it was good though, because I didn't even know, Lady Jean, I needed a vacation until I left. I'm like, oh my gosh, like finally my mind was able to breathe. And so I've learned that rest is a weapon. And if you learn to really use rest as a tool, you know, it can really benefit you. And what good is it if you're an entrepreneur, but you're all burnt out, you're tired, you're not healthy. So I've come to even learn that prosperity isn't just money. It's physical, it's mental, it's in every aspect of your life, emotional prosperity. You know, I've learned to really balance all of those factors out and all of those different elements so that I'm not just like, because for a minute I was so one-sided, just like I gotta focus. To the point where I'm like, I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping, I'm not like, that's not God's will for our lives. That's not my will for my life.
Right.
And I've learned to really incorporate balance and boundaries. But it's an everyday learning journey for me. When it comes to balance, I'm still learning it. And I was on the phone with my mentor and I asked her, I'm like, how do you do all you do? Like, how? And she was just like, it's the grace of God and, you know, the boundaries that I set in place so that I could spend time with my husband. I could go to the church and do what I got to do there. I could be the businesswoman. I could be the mom. I could be the spiritual mom. So, you know, I'm still learning that. And I glean from anyone that perfects it or makes it look good, because I'm like, how do you do it? Because I need to learn myself.
Listen, for those of us that have been in this a long time, you're so right in everything you're saying, because it's easy to become overwhelmed as pastors, as business owners. You know, it is very easy. You said something that's really key, and I kind of want to go in this direction. You're heavily involved, right, with ministry to the young people. How important is it to help this generation embrace prayer? Prayer is the key to everything, everything. So what is your thought on that about, you know, with young people understanding, like we were talking on the natural side, right? We were talking about entrepreneurship. Now on the spiritual side, how important is it to help young people understand how important prayer is?
Yes, prayer is very vital. I make sure I set a time, intentional time to pray. Before I even knew what like watch hours were and different things like that, I just knew I had to commune with the Father. That is where not only I get my ideas and my downloads and my strategies from, but it's also where I gain revelation, I gain peace, I gain understanding, I gain direction. To me, when I don't pray, I feel confused, I feel irritable, I'm weary, and prayer is just important. I think before anything, like Jesus prayed for 40 days. He fasted 40 days, 40 nights. He was hidden. And I think it's important to close the door, lock in with God, seek the face of God, pray, get understanding, get what you need, and get out of prayer and then go work. You know, I think it's important that whatever we get in prayer, we then apply it outside of prayer, you know, to what God is calling us to do. And I think it's so important that our generation understands the fundamentals of prayer. For so long, I used to just, especially when I was on fire for God, when I first gave my life to Christ, I was just like warring and I was just so excited. But then I've learned that different seasons require different strategies. And one season may require your warfare prayer, and another season may require, hey, God may say, just be quiet. I want to pour into you. I want to minister to your heart in this hour. And that's the season I'm actually in right now, where now I kind of, every time I try to, you know, go forth, Lady Jean, and I just weeping, and I'm just like in worship, in this like worship mode. And I'm like, God, what are you doing in this hour? What are you doing to me? And he's like, I'm teaching you how to be quiet. Because what I've learned is sometimes we pray, but we don't wait to hear from God.
Yes.
We pray, so we talk so much, and then we're done. We get out of the presence of God. We're like, okay, God, thank you. But it's communication between you and the Father. You know, there's a difference between communication and intercession. Intercession is when you stand in the gap. Communication is you praying between you and the Father. And sometimes when you're just interceding all the time and you're the strong person, you can forget to actually say, oh my gosh, let me sit here and hear from God. So, you know, I want to encourage anyone listening to really in this season to gain understanding of what the strategy that God is requiring of you to apply right now. You know, again, different seasons require different strategies, but always pray. Prayer should not be your second or your last resort. It should be the first thing you do. So even my young people, before you get up and scroll on TikTok and Instagram and pick up the phone and call your friend, talk to God, say at least thank you. You know, you don't have to go in and when you first, but at least God, thank you for waking me up, being so grateful, have mercy, Father, forgive me. Like, you know, just begin to commune. It's communication. It does not have to be elaborate. You don't have to have all the perfect words, the big words. You don't have to know all the scriptures, right? You know, you'll grow and mature, but at least just begin to communicate.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And as you were talking, my mind ran to the prophet Samuel and how he heard God calling him, but Eli had the presence of mind of saying to him, go back and say that serve here thing. You're so right. When you're talking about hearing from God, you have those moments where you do need to be quiet and you hear the voice of God. So I'm so appreciative of the fact, as even a young person saying that to my viewing audience, she's absolutely correct. Prayer should be the first thing, not the second thing. So I'm going to transition back into the natural. I want to talk about finances and what's one financial principle that you're glad that you put into practice?
Wow. I definitely love, I call it the 3 M's: make, manage, multiply. I need to make my money, I need to manage my money, and I need to multiply it. You know, a lot of people make it, but they don't know how to manage it. And then if you don't know how to manage your money or the resources that God gives you, then you definitely wouldn't know how to multiply it so that your money can begin to work for itself. So that's one of my easiest principles I tell everyone and anyone. I'm currently reading a book right now that my pastor actually gave me on Sunday. It's The Psychology of Money. And so I'm reading that now. But that's probably what I would tell anybody. When anyone comes up to me, what should I do with my money? How can I start to save money? Get a plan to make money, get a plan to manage your money, and get a plan to multiply it.
That's powerful
to do.
Are you a reader? You like to read a lot of books?
I love to read.
Okay, yeah. Principles into what you're actually doing. How important is that for people to understand? Reading is a fundamental practice that should happen.
Yes. Before, I used to actually not be a reader, but when I got into entrepreneurship and I studied wealthy people, I started to just go into this quest of just studying millionaires and billionaires and what do they do on a daily basis. And I've learned most of them actually they take in more than they give out. So I've learned that a lot of wealthy people, they read a lot, they study a lot, they get under mentors, they rather spend their money than actually time. They like to save their time and they rather hire a coach or someone that can just do it for them, where they can just learn and save time. So I started to read, and I challenged myself to read 1 to 2 books a month, and then also to write. I love writing as well, because I know I'm called to write. So sometimes I heard Dr. Cindy Trim say, at least write 1,000 words a day. So it's the discipline, you know, that reading, education, going to school, all of that stuff teaches you discipline. It teaches you things that you would not, know yourself. And reading is definitely, I mean, if you don't read, I don't know what to tell you. If anyone wants to advance and grow in what their sphere of influence is, or their matron, it's really important to read, really read. And I love reading. I get books that I know would benefit me and would help me grow. So I read on habits, I read on business, I read on mindset, I read on wealth, I read on education. I'm really big right now into just humanitarian works and that. I don't know why I'm into that right now, but philanthropy, I'm really big into that. So definitely, yeah.
That's awesome. We're going to take a commercial break, and we're going to come back. This is so good. So good to talk about this. But when we come back, I want to ask Cacharel, how important is it, and was it, for her to have a mentor in her life to speak the things that she needs, especially with what she's doing, where she's going, and what she's actually becoming? We'll be right back on Real Talk with Jean Price.
It was beyond hard. There were some days where I didn't think that it would be where didn't think I was going to be where I am now. I think the hardest part of it was realizing that I had a voice. Because when you come out of abuse, the main thing that was, at least for me, was that I was made to feel and told, don't say anything, be quiet. I was threatened. So I think I went through my life realizing and feeling like I didn't have a voice. I was talking to my husband one day, And one of the things I would always say is, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm okay. And I realized that was part of the mental mechanism, if I can call it that, of telling yourself that you're okay when you really aren't okay. And coming to the realization and then looking at yourself in the mirror, realizing that you're really not okay, that at different times in my life actually made me feel like I wanted to take a step back. But it became like an oxymoron in the sense of, though you want to go back, something kept pushing me forward. And the moving forward was the saving grace for me, because though I didn't think I can do it, the Lord kept pushing me that I could do it. And I have to tell you, one of the things that pushed me even more so was understanding that somebody is going to look at me, look at my life, and they're going to want to know, how did she get through it? So you become that testimony that people could really look at your life and be like, wow, she did it, or God did it for her rather. And it was very uncomfortable, but one day it happened. And the way you know that it really happened is when it doesn't affect you anymore. When that happened in my life, I knew I was no longer a victim, but I became victorious.
I see all the armor you wear. I see all the jewels and gems of wisdom you share. It's okay to shine, Ma. It's okay to shine. It's okay to have pride, Ma. You don't have to live a lie. Don't let the violence fool you into silence, convincing you that you are not worthy of space and time. You might not know it yet, but you got a multi-dimensional set of eyes looking out for you. Trust that what is meant for you is relying on you to show up. Show up.
Welcome back to Real Talk with Jean Price. Listen, I am so glad that you tuned back in. If you weren't on the first half, you want to watch the second half of the show tonight. I have a wonderful young lady that's on the show. She's an entrepreneur. She's just so many wonderful things all wrapped up in one. And she has a voice. And that's what I love about it so much. She has a voice. She's making changes in the world and impact. She's having influence and impact with our young people. And tonight we're talking about pushing our millennials forward. So I'm going to ask the Cacharel Coach, come on back to Real Talk with Jean Price. Welcome back.
Hey, let's go.
I am so glad to have you on part 2 of Real Talk with Jean Price. So good to talk to you. Before we went to the break, I wanted to ask you the question of, how did you realize you needed a mentor, and what has it been like having a mentor in your space?
Yeah, it's so important to have a mentor, a coach, a life coach, a therapist. I'm a firm believer in all of that. It really saves a lot. It's like a shortcut to success, as I call it. One thing I love is how Jesus was an example. He was skilled and experienced, and he brought his disciples to pattern after him, so that when he leaves, the disciples knew exactly what to do in terms of ministry. And so that's like the greatest model or framework that we should follow. So I have a mentor actually in multiple different arenas that the Lord has called me to be in. So I have a mentor for ministry. I have a mentor for business. People that I know that are experienced in their sphere. And I'm a firm believer in proximity, that if I get close to you, I will pick up your mantle per se, or what it is that the Lord has placed on you. And I'm a firm believer on serving your mentor. Mentorship is not just a one-ended or one-sided thing, but it's reciprocated, and you and your mentor both pour into each other. So every person that I call a mentor or a coach, I help them in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's going to them and serving them in any way. I'm big on serving. Like Joshua, he served, and as we saw, he picked up where Moses left off. So I think mentorship is something that we should not take lightly, and we shouldn't just throw that word around. Just because somebody gave you advice does not mean they're your mentor. I think it's something that God ordains to, and he puts together, because almost every mentor that I have or have had it was literally a God connection. Like God did it. I didn't go after it. They didn't go after me. It was just like, it just happened.
That's
And, you know, you will just see that the value is being poured out. Your gifts are cultivated. Again, what you're called to is cultivated. It's groomed, it's stirred, it's built. So I think it's very important that, you know, don't try to just YouTube everything. Go to school, get your degrees, get a mentor, get a coach. Like, you know, today, again, our generation is just like, they think we can just do everything on our own. And that's not the case.
right.
You know, we want the titles and we want millions and but you have to serve. You have to go through process. You have to get under someone, you know, that is skilled and experienced. Because I just looked up the word mentor, and the definition was an experienced individual
Right.
that can teach you and show you the roadmap almost. So yeah,
Right.
definitely important.
Do you see yourself as a mentor and what you do to help young people?
Yes, I definitely do call myself a mentor. You know, my last name is actually Coach. So it's funny
Right.
because they just call me Coach. Almost all my students and my mentees and everyone in the hub and all my clients. I love what I do. I love helping people. I genuinely love pouring into them and pulling them to where God has called them to be. If I can be a help in any way, I always tell them, like, listen, you know, you guys have access. Of course, we have boundaries, but I tell them all the time, like, listen, like, whatever you guys need, I'm here. You know, God has assigned me to you in this season. So I really want to do the best that I can do. I study leadership. I read leadership books as well. So yeah, definitely. I would consider myself a mentor. It's weird to say. And a lot of my mentees are older than me, actually.
Really? Okay.
Also, clients, I probably have 2 people under me that are like either my age or near me, my age, but most of them are moms, wives, pastors' wives. So yeah.
All right. So this is huge announcement, right? You have an amazing conference that's going to be coming up. Listen to my viewing audience. I want you to hear about this because she's going to tell us all about it. And it's called the Solutionist Summit. Now let's just stop right there first. How did you come up with the name of the conference name Solutionist Summit?
Yes.
It was so powerful. Kind of tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the hour that we're in, the Lord has been just speaking to me about how he's raising up solutionists, those that are going to solve problems in the front line.
Right.
I love, one of my favorite stories in the Bible is Joseph. Yes. And the Lord right now is raising up modern day Josephs, those that have agricultural power, economic power, marketplace power, those that can really go out, get next to millionaires, get next to frontline leaders, get next to government officials, commune with them, join together with them, and then come back into the church, build up the church with our resources and tools. Because honestly, we have seen so much economic shift, and the Lord has been revealing to me that we are going to continue to see more shift. So this summit is to bring forth the prophets and the apostles and the fivefold leaders to come together, to impart, to train, to equip. We're going to be talking about credit. We're going to be talking about farming. We're going to be talking about business building. We're going to be talking about writing. Lots of activations. I have prophets coming to activate and to stir and to, it's just going to be powerful. It's 2 days in New York, and it's just going to be an amazing time in God. Our day sessions are, like I said, activations and trainings and different things like that. Our night services are just actual services, and I have 2 amazing leaders coming to impart those 2 nights. So I'm excited for what God is doing. As you can tell, I'm very full right now. I'm just so excited for what he's doing. I consider myself a modern day Joseph. I do. I really do, because God, that's what God needs in this hour. He doesn't just need people in the 4 walls. He needs you in every sphere. He needs you to dominate. And I really want to put inside of every attendee, like, when you leave this conference, when you leave this summit, go out and do what God has called you to do in the world.
Yeah, and that was going to be one of my questions to you, but you said it so eloquently. What's one thing that we can hope for to get out of the conference for those that will be attending? And I think as soon as you started talking, we were on the same page. I thought of Joseph. He was such a problem solver to Foward. Like he was
Yes.
able to take those talents, those gifts, those abilities that were in him, God ordained, like yourself, and he was able to put forth and look at the life of Joseph. So that was so powerful when you said it. I was like, okay, that's what I was thinking about. Think of Joseph. And this is your first time doing this summit, or
this is my first in-person thing. I've only had one in-person event in 2018 when I first started my journey. So this is like, the pandemic happened. I was going to do something, but we canceled it. But this has been an appointment by God, and I'm just, again, excited. So this is my first time.
Wow. Now, I know you mentioned, will there be something specifically also? I know you're going to be talking about entrepreneurship and business and so forth. Are you going to be doing now? Sometimes with conferences, is there something after the conference? Because people are going to come, it's going to be impactful. They're going to get a lot of information. But then what happens after the conference, if those that are listening, or even other people that are, what can they get from it after the conference?
Yeah, so after the conference, we actually have a program in the hub where if you are like, hey, I love this, but, because I'm big on like, yes, you're going to feel emotions, but you got to apply some things to your life. So after the conference, again, we have our hub. It's like a 12-month program. We literally are year round, where we do 4 meetups a year in different cities. We're taking it this up and coming year in 2023 to Houston, Atlanta, and New York. So we're going to be in 3 cities. So we do 4, again, quarterly meetups a year. We also have monthly activations and trainings online virtually. And then anybody that joins our hubs, they have access to all of our digital products. So we have books, we have different programs. We have just a plethora of amount of different courses that you have access to when you join our hub. So yeah, after the conference, if you're like, I want more and I want to be fully equipped, we're actually adding like a school of profit. So it's going to be amazing, because we really just want everyone, again, to do what God ultimately has called you to do. And ultimately, Lady Price, the goal is souls. That's what it is. We want to teach people how to win souls into the kingdom. It grieves me when I meet young people or even older people, and they don't know how to win a soul. They don't know the fundamentals of evangelism and how simple yet complex it is. So that's one thing we're big on. Whether you're called to government, whether you're called to medicine, whether you're called to the business realm, whether you're called to media, entertainment, you have to know the agenda that the Lord has placed on your mind. And ultimately, it's to win souls.
Right. That's awesome. Another thing that you do, right, we talked about, is marketing. Was it marketing? Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yes, so I have a marketing agency called the Cash Collective, and it is a group of creatives that I put together where we offer full service marketing. So we have videography, we do PR, we do influencer management, and we also do sales. So we have clients, we take one-on-one clients, we also have group coaching programs, and we help build businesses, brands, and personalities who want to impact, again, global influence, and have global influence and impact. So yeah, love what I do. I started that in 2018. As soon as I left high school, I started my agency. So that's been something that the Lord, of course, assigned to me. And yeah, my agency right now, we're actually booked up until March for clients. So we're actually not taking clients right now, y'all. So please. But yeah, but I love what I do, again, and I'm just looking forward to God continuously expanding us. We have big visions, we have big goals. We want to work with Fortune 500s. We want to do corporate events. Moving next year, we're going to kind of move into the corporate realm and pitch ourselves over in those areas. So yeah.
That's beautiful. Listen, for those that are listening to Real Talk tonight, you can see that this pushing our millennials forward, Cacharel is a perfect example as to what can happen once you push yourself forward, be disciplined, be focused, and all the wonderful things that God has for you. Before we close the show tonight, to the viewing audience, Cacharel, give them something to take away from this show tonight that they can carry with them until they go to your conference next year.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny because honestly, what just dropped in my spirit, I want to say this though. Yes, you hear what I'm doing, you see what I'm doing, but understand the warfare, understand there is trials, understand there's tribulations. And one thing I love, and it kind of ties all the way back to what we first started with, I'm big on just hiding in the secret place and hiding in the presence of God. I had to disconnect from a lot of people. I had to go through a lot of crushing. I had to go through a lot of stretching. I asked God, why me? So I don't want us to just sit on here like this is perfect. No, it sometimes isn't. I'm grateful for the call. I'm grateful for what I do. But I want you guys to take away that there is when you have a great call on your life and when God has called you to do big things, there's going to be great crushing because that's how the oil is produced out of you. I've come though to learn and I've come to learn that process is good and necessary. I cannot do what God has called me to do in the capacity he's called me to do it in if I'm not crushed.
Right.
It almost makes me emotional because I've been through it. I'm telling y'all, my friend and I, my best friend is on here. We were talking about it yesterday. Yes, we could look cute. We got the makeup. We got the designer. We drive nice. We do. But understand, there is a crushing. There was warfare. We had to pray strenuously. I get up 4 to 6 every morning and pray. I have to. Because if I don't know what's going to happen. Right. So I have to pray. You know, when you are called to be the bloodline breaker of your family, you're breaking generational curses. You know, you have a lot coming against you. It's not easy. It's not. So I want to leave just an encouraging word, you know, to keep going. David, he inquired to the Lord. He said, what should I do with these troops? What should I do? And the Lord told him to overtake and to without fail, he'll recover all. So I love that scripture. It's one of my favorite scriptures because it reminds me that I can literally do anything that God tells me to do through him.
Yes.
Through him. I have to only do it through him. I can't do it in my own strength. I can't do it in my own might, but I have to rely and lean on the strength of God, the understanding of the Lord, and really ride with him full-fledged. I can't do it on my own. So I want to leave that with you guys. Like, when you are called to great and big things, you're going to have some processing. But go through it. Don't skip it. Don't overrun it or whatever. Go through it. It's necessary.
Wow. Listen, to my viewing audience tonight, Cacharel Coach, who is a visionary. Amazing young lady. We want you, listen, follow her, see the things that she's doing. But she said it so eloquently, though. It comes with warfare. There is a course for the anointing.
Yeah.
That's just point blank. There is a course for that. And I'm so glad that you recognize it, even as a young person, that there is a course. Stay prayerful, she said. Stay focused, stay disciplined. You said some really key words to kind of navigate and bridge it together where God can really use somebody. So it's powerful. So listen, we want you to follow her. We want you to there's her information going across the screen on Instagram and Facebook. And to our viewing audience, we want you to come back next Wednesday on Real Talk, where we're going to have another story that we want to share with you. And Cacharel, we invite you back to Real Talk. Let us know. We'll catch up to you. We want to kind of follow you and just kind of see some of the amazing things that you're doing for the kingdom of God. Thank you all. We'll see you next week on Real Talk. Thank you again, Cacharel, for being on Real Talk.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.